So, hi everybody. I just want a show of hands. How many of you think it's really important to talk about money? Yeah, the majority. Good, good, good. Okay. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But first, Bola, I just want to know, tell them how you got into this field, this area.
Do you know what? I was always really good at maths. It was just the thing that I was naturally good at. And I'm all about leaning into your strengths. But I remember being younger and watching my whole family like run to this place called work. I remember being like 7. I was like, oh, work must be really important. And then that's when I realized how important money was to like adults and families. So as I understood numbers, I was like, if I can mishmash the two,
Yep.
then hopefully I should be good with my money.
Okay, fabulous. So my first question to you, or second question, why do you think it's important to learn about money and finances, especially at like such a young age with our audience?
It's so important for your mindset to know how money works, because you don't want to get into bad habits. Sometimes I speak to people and they say things like, it's too late for us, just talk to the kids. And I think that's so sad. So all of you should be so happy to be here and to be learning things like this, because I never had this growing up in my school, and many people I know didn't have it either. It's so key that you work on your mindset and your foundation so that when you grow up, you don't have all of these quote unquote bad habits, but you've got the good ones, like you're already budgeting the money that you have, you're saving regularly. Because I think what we see is a lot of entertainment, whether it's music, athletes, pop stars and so on, and we hear, oh my gosh, they made so much money, or, you know, Taylor Swift is helping the economy grow just by doing concerts here.
Her and Beyonce.
And some people think, and Beyonce, and some people think, oh, if I had that money, this is what I'd do. But it's one thing getting money, it's another thing knowing how to keep it. So what's key is that you build on the mindset you have about money from now, from young.
Mm-hmm. I think, can I just add something to that?
Sure.
Because just quickly, you're aware, obviously, that our kind of habits and thoughts when it comes to money are formed at quite a young age. So around the age of around 7 or 8, we start getting kind of ideas about finances. So, you know, it's really lucky that you're here to be influenced by, you know, some of the information that Bola's going to share with you, because, you know, you're already picking up money habits and it's already kind of forming those habits that you might take through to kind of adult life. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, really, really important to start from young. How do you go about having a positive financial mindset to money, you know, at such an age?
It's really about the relationship you tell yourself you have with money, but also about the relationship you have with yourselves. So hands up who has ever said to themselves or looked in the mirror and said, I'm pretty, or I'm handsome, or any of those words. Hands up. Might sound silly, but I need you to put your hands up.
All of you put your hands up.
All of you should be putting your hands up, because the things you tell yourself about yourself are so important. And the same thing goes with money. If you say things like, oh, I'm always bad with money, or I never like the way I look, and you're super critical of yourself, of your finances and so on, it builds in this negative image, so that when something does happen and it doesn't go your way, you're like, of course it didn't. So you need to work on making sure that your mindset is as positive as possible. I don't play with saying I'm broke. Mm-hmm. When someone says that, it's like, you know, when someone sneezes or coughs too close to you, that is what it's like for me when someone says that. So I'd say it's so important that you're constantly working on your mindset. And also remember, even if you get it wrong, it's fine, you can grow and you can learn. It's not the end of the world if a budget goes wrong. It's not the end of the world if you didn't save as much as you wanted to. It's about how you pick yourself back up when you didn't get to the goal you needed to get to.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm sure next time we ask you that question, you'll all be saying, yes, me. Yeah, you should all have confidence in yourself. Okay, so what are some examples of good financial habits to start doing now? So, you know, things like budgeting, maybe saving, keeping a spending diary.
Yeah, so yeah, when I was your age, I got into budgeting quite young, and although I didn't have a lot of money to budget because I wasn't on a regular income, it was just important for me to look at what a budget looked like, so that when I did come into more money, I knew what to do with it. And from a young age, I got into saving. So I remember I was like, oh, I can only save £5 a month. Again, I wasn't really making money. But the point is, I remember one time, 10 months passed, and I was like, oh, I've got £50. That's amazing. So what you've got to understand is the small things add up. So make sure that you are saving regularly, because as you get older, you want to make sure you have something called an emergency fund. So you put some money away. So you make sure that you're budgeting, make sure that you're saving. And it sounds cliche, but make sure that you're learning. One of the best things that I have come to terms with is that through life we'll all be learning. So what I learned about money then and what I know now is just compounding through constant learning. So make sure you're doing the same when it comes to your money.
Wonderful, and I like that. And obviously you have the How to Save It book, and you've got your new book coming out. So amazing tools to start learning about money. I wanted to ask then, so I wanted to do a bit of a deeper dive into kind of the habits. So for example, if you get your first job, or if you receive money from family, how should that money be managed and kind of divided up?
Hands up who's ever received money from their family and things. Hands up who's saved some of that money. Okay, so there was, you all can't see each other, there was less hands for those who've saved it. The first thing, as I said, you need to get into a habit of budgeting. Sometimes what we do is when we start receiving money that maybe we don't get on a regular basis, it's easy for us to go back to the position we were in before we had that money. So if you go from £0 to £100, for example, you may say, do you know what, I'm going to get the trainers or whatever it is that I want to get, or I'm going to get the concert tickets, etc., etc. But what you don't want to do is go straight back to zero. If you get £100, for example, could you put away 10%? Could you put away £10 and then just live off the 90? And I say that to you all because you're in a great position where you don't have this adult thing called lots of bills, right? When you're an adult, you always have bills, and one day you will miss the age that you're at now, because sometimes I look like, why can't my mum pay my own bills? And it's because I'm a fully grown adult, so she shouldn't have to pay my own bills. So what's key is that you're learning to budget, but you're also like looking into the different categories. So you need to know, and I don't want to jump here, but you need to know the difference between your needs and your wants and your savings. There's such a difference, because people say to me, oh, I need to get my nails done, I need to get my hair done. But those are actually wants. It may sound like a need to some people, but we need to have a roof over our head. That's a need, right? We need to eat. So what's important is you're establishing the difference between your needs, your wants, and your savings when it comes to budgeting, and you are saving. Make sure throughout your entire life that when you come into money, you put a bit aside. And as you get older, you can learn about investing and how it works. But there are people that I know, or I've heard of, or I've seen on TV. Someone quickly shout out to me their favorite athlete. Ronaldo. Everyone loves it. Ronaldo. It could be Ronaldo, Saka, England. Listen, Messi back in the day. It's all fantastic. When it comes to athletes, when some of them come into a lot of money, and it's not just athletes, we hear it with music. It's like, oh my gosh, they're starting on £250,000 a week. A lot of us are thinking, oh my gosh, what would we do with that money?
Yep.
You don't want to be in a position where all of that money disappears, whether it's £25, £250 or £250,000. We can't just be a spending culture. So we need to ensure that we're tracking our expenses as well. That's the whole point of budgeting, but we're keeping something for ourselves. You never want to be part of that story of where did all my money go? You want to say, I know where it's gone. I put a bit away, spent a bit, and I'm happy with the level I'm at.
Yeah, I love that answer. Yeah, we've all heard or seen stories of people that have money one day and then don't later, and it is because they're just spending it all or not kind of investing it correctly.
Sorry, just to add to that, I notice sometimes some like athletes, for example, they're caught going into Poundland, and then like the newspapers will snap them. No matter how much money you have, don't let anyone ever tell you that you're being cheap or things like that. That's not a thing. Sometimes you need to be smart with your money no matter how much money you have.
Definitely, 100%. Next question is, how do you deal with the pressure from like friends and social media to always have, the latest in thing? So the next latest pair of trainers or item of clothing or...
Yeah, so social media is a hard one because naturally it's so easy to be influenced. And I say that not just to you, but across the board. It's very easy to do the thing that is popular and that is working. You have to have a good level of self-awareness and an identity for yourself to know that you can't be pressured by every single thing. Now, when I was growing up, our thing was kickers.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if you didn't have kickers at school, you weren't it. And for a while, I didn't have kickers. But the thing is, I am the youngest of 6 kids. I actually grew up in Brixton. So when my mum's like, we can't get kickers yet, we couldn't get it. And I had to know that my self-worth wasn't in my possessions. It wasn't in having the latest bag. Again, Nike, Just Do It bags, the small ones, that was in. It wasn't in whatever the trend was. It was in who I was as a person. And sometimes saying, we all need to understand when you all come together in school, your friends, your classmates, but you all have unique stories. And maybe what one kid can do is different from what another kid can do. I could speak to my friend and they say, yeah, I'm going on another holiday with my family. And I'm like, is that the 4th time this year? I did not grow up with that type of money. However, there are things about my life that I love as well. So what's key as well is no matter what, don't compare your journey to other people's. Be happy with where you are. And obviously, if you want to work towards a better future, you can. But yeah, just don't get into all the peer pressure and think you've got to be like someone else. Because one of the best things in the world is genuinely being yourself and being unique and following your own path. And that even goes for like peer pressure and like trends.
Yeah, I love that answer. And yes, you being unique is what means that you're here today talking, and vice versa for me as well. So,
yeah, no, that's actually such a good point, because when I actually started talking about finance online, a lot of people were like, what's Bola doing? Why is she talking about money? And it was the time when everyone was just doing beauty and finance. I mean, beauty and fashion. Finance is always on my mind. Beauty and fashion. So everyone will be like, oh, but I'm like, but we all use money. That's what you're using, right? So there wasn't really a space back in the day. But so now the space has opened up. Wellness, finance, everything's online now. And now people are like, oh, now I get what Bola's doing. But there was a time that they didn't, and I had to continue on my own path. So it's always important that you continue on yours, even if it's not the popular one.
Yeah, absolutely. So how about if, I don't know, how many of you have like your own little business on the side that you do at this moment in time? Do any of you have? I saw someone just kind of put a hand up and put it back down. Okay. Yeah. So I do know
business.
Yeah. So I do know some young people that do have businesses, and it could just be, doing some lashes, doing some nails that you do for your friends, or doing hair, and I just wanted to ask you, Bola, so if someone is doing their own business through social media and kind of being self-employed, do they need to set up a company, and do they need to start paying taxes and start thinking about those types of things already?
So it depends on how much you're making in one tax year. So hands up, who knows when the tax year starts, out of curiosity? It's fine if you don't. The tax year starts on the 6th of April every year, right? It might change a bit slightly, and then it ends on the 5th of April for the next year. So it should end on the 5th of April in 2025. That is a whole tax year, where April to April, the first week. If any of you have a business and you make more than £12,570, that is when you probably need to speak to someone like an accountant and find out maybe what tax you need to pay for that. Because in general, anything before that is tax-free. And you can be a sole trader. You don't need to set up a limited company. Those are like lots of different terms. The key is that if you start to clock, wow, I'm starting to make more than £12,000, then maybe you need to speak to a parent or guardian and say, look, this is what I've been up to. This is what it's starting to generate, and speak to an accountant. Because, yeah, you don't want to be thinking about HMRC when you're trying to just, make your coins.
Yeah, and that happens. I've got clients that are, have huge HMRC bills that they're paying off because they didn't know about this thing. So again, really lucky to be here and having this conversation.
Yeah.
So I just want to change and talk about kind of careers, and how many of you in the room want to kind of write a book like Bola has done? Anybody?
Books aren't always very popular, so it's fine. Don't
Okay.
Don't feel sorry for me. Don't feel like you need to put your hand up. I do a lot of other things as well.
Yeah, she does. She does. How about a finance career? Has any of you thought about that? Yeah, I can see some hands go up. Perfect. Okay. So I just want to talk about kind of careers now. So what advice would you give to the students about picking a future career, and some of the things to consider when it comes to, financially planning for things like university tuition fees, budgeting for living expenses, or just a career journey?
So I'll start back to front with like university fees. So now we all know uni fees have gone up drastically in the last decade. Make sure you're doing your research for yourself, because I assume that maybe a lot of parents and guardians are going to say, yeah, sure, go to uni, etc., because it's the traditional thing to do. But you are going to be there for a lot of your formative, like, adult years. So you want to be sure that you truly want to do what you're doing at university. It's great socially, but it's also great educationally. If you're going to be there from, let's say, 18 to 21 at a minimum, make sure that what you're doing is still worth it to you when you are 30, 40, and so on. I know some people who are like, oh, I wish I didn't do it. I did it to please my mum. I did it to please my dad. You need to know why you're going to uni and how it's going to work for you. So make sure you're doing your research. And if that's not necessarily, you don't want to take the higher education route, then look at maybe apprenticeships as well. What are you planning to do? But the third thing and last thing I want to say is figure out now how important, and continue along the way, figure out how important money is to you. For some people, money's not important, but you need to figure out what the line is for you, because some people say, I don't really care about money. You don't need to care about money when you're in your parents' house. The bills are paid. What type of place do you want to live in once you get older? Do you want a garden? Do you want a place to park a car? Do you want a car? Do you want a family? These are the things that you need to ask yourself. There are some people who choose certain careers because they know that in any economy, they may still have a job. Now, you're not always guaranteed a job, but currently in this economic situation, like people in finance, bankers, lawyers, doctors, a lot of them, they have a particular job. We're seeing what's happening in the creative industry. It's okay to have different dreams, but know what the financial implications are of each dream, because then you can decide whether or not you truly want to do it. So decide how important money is to you at every stage of your life, because adulthood, it will continue to shock you. And as like your parents and guardians like slowly, I don't want to say let go, but slowly let go for you to make your own decisions, you want to kind of have them as a backup support, but know that you need to start trusting yourself with where you're going and understanding how important is money to me, and understanding your identity, because as you get older, you're not all going to be in the same class or the same place like this. You're all going to be going different ways. Some of you, and I say this growing up, I have friends who are now Hollywood stars. I have friends who are professional athletes. I have friends who are lawyers. I have friends who do not care about money, and they work for maybe like a non-profit, and that fills their soul. There's different types of riches. You need to know what you're okay with, and you need to have your own identity, because everyone is going to get to choose for themselves what works for them. But you just need to make sure that the choice is yours, because at the end of the day, if the choice isn't yours, you don't want to live with regret of taking on someone else's decision.
Yeah, I love that answer. And I think as well, just to add just a little bit of add on, I think, as women, as people from diverse backgrounds, as people who live in, Brixton, etc., money is something that you can use as a tool to, it's called social mobility, to kind of move on, move up in the world. So it really is an important consideration. It's not the only consideration. If very creative and want to go and do something you love that doesn't, give you lots of money, that's absolutely fine. But I do think it's something to think about.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I said that, I grew up in Brixton. One thing I wanted was peace. I grew up around a lot of noise back in the day. And I told myself, everything isn't about money, but it's about peace and what peace represents. And now I live in a very peaceful area, and it gives me enough space to think creatively and to think about what I want to do with my life. Sometimes it's not that you care about money. It's, again, as you said, it's a tool.
Yeah. And that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, Bola. It's been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you too. Thank you, Selina.